Y'all, everybody loves mac and cheese. It is a classic comfort food that we all can't get enough of. This one is even more over the top with crispy bacon bits stirred in. Let me show you how I make my favorite stovetop mac and cheese at home. To begin this recipe, we're gonna go in a specific order of steps to make the most use of our time. And to start, we're gonna begin by frying up some bacon, since this part is gonna take the longest. And this can be cooking while we do the rest of the steps of the recipe. So I'll take about 6 slices or half a pound of bacon. We're gonna add that to a large skillet over medium heat on the stove and start to let that cook first thing. The next step is to cook our noodles. So to a large stock pot, I'm gonna fill it about halfway full of water, then add it to the stove over high heat to bring it to a boil. Once it's at a boil, then we're gonna add in a whole box or 1 pound of dried pasta. Give that a good stir, and we're gonna let that cook until just al dente. Now the next step is to grate your own cheese. This is a crucial step in this recipe. Do not use any bagged, pre-shredded cheese. The sauce will not turn out smooth and creamy because it has a caking agent on it. We're gonna shred up about 2 cups of this. At this point, check your bacon, give it a good stir, make sure it's cooking evenly. Then once the bacon is finished cooking, I'll take a slotted spoon and scoop that onto a paper towel lined platter and plate to cool, set aside with the cheese until we need it here in a little bit. Next, your pasta should be done cooking by this point, so go ahead and drain the noodles and let them sit aside. You'll need them here in a second. Add that stock pot back to the stove, turn on medium heat. We're gonna start making the sauce. You're gonna add in 1 tablespoon of butter, let that melt, and then add in 1 tablespoon of flour. Whisk both of those things together and let them cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. At this point, turn the heat down to medium-low, and we're gonna add in our milk. I like to do this a half a cup of milk at a time, and then whisk really well in between each addition. So add a half a cup of milk, whisk really well, make sure it's smooth and creamy, add another half, and then repeat using up the whole 2.5 cups. At this point, we'll add our seasonings, which is about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper. Give it a good whisk again. At this point, as the sauce cooks and heats up, it's gonna start to thicken a little bit. Next, it's time to add everything together. We're gonna start by adding the cheese in. So add a couple handfuls, give it a good whisk, then add the rest. You're gonna let this slowly melt. Once all of the cheese is melted and the sauce has come together, it's time to add in the noodles back. So dump them straight into the pot, and using a wooden spoon, stir everything so that all of the noodles are coated in that delicious creamy cheese sauce. And then the very last thing to do is add in the bacon. I like to add in just half of this cooked bacon, stir it into the sauce and the noodles, and then we'll pour it out into a big serving bowl, and I'll take the rest of it and sprinkle it on top so you get those delicious crunchy bits. I finish it off by sprinkling a little bit more salt and some freshly cracked pepper on top. At this point, it is ready to serve, hot and fresh, and you all, it's so good. It is one of my most favorite comfort foods. Everybody loves mac and cheese. It is smooth and creamy. This recipe comes together in about 30 minutes. It's the perfect dish for any weeknight meal to eat alone or as a side dish, but it's also fancy enough to serve friends and family. Everybody's gonna love it. There will be no leftovers, I promise. For the full recipe, head on over to feelingasouthernsoul.com. Everything that you need to know can be found there. Thanks so much for joining me in my kitchen, and until next time, I'll talk to y'all later.